So The Last of Us Season 1 has come to an end, and it was, to say the least, amazing. I want to go over my opinion in this video and sort of give what I liked and what I didn't like, and most importantly, the Season 2 of The Last of Us. Sit back, relax, and most importantly, enjoy the video. And also, I apologize for this being a little bit late. I wanted to give it time to marinate, and also I just wasn't feeling well, so here you go. I think this show does right to the adaptation and makes changes where there needs to be changes, and most importantly, giving soul and depth into Joel and Ellie. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit skeptical about the spores changes, but overall, I think it was a good call and made total sense in the context of everything. I think personally the acting is what took the cake for me, and the changes in the story that made the show literally the best adaptation of a game to a live action version of it. I also loved how they added like more lore to the whole entire universe, like how Ellie is immune, and also some more context behind things that fans had a lot of speculation and questions on. Also, I'm not sure if many people know this, but I am a screenwriter, and I will say that this show was written pretty decently. The only kind of issues I had was with the finale, but we'll get more into that as we go on the video. But from the way the characters would speak and how they would act, it didn't feel forced by any means. And I also think the Sam and Henry change, along with the Bill and Frank story, was legit better than the game. I cannot believe I'm about to say this, but I think that this adaptation shines in different areas better than the original game ever did, and that makes me very happy because we finally got a good video game to show adaptation. Honestly, I'm really happy how this show came out, and overall I cried, laughed, felt some type of way for these characters. If I had to rate this show, I would say it's a solid 8 out of 10. I love this adaptation, and honestly I think this just holds a special place in my heart. But now it's time for my criticism as well. I just want to preface and say that this is my criticism, not me hating on the show at all. This is just things I think they could have done a little bit better, and that's how, as writers and as directors, we learn, and we have to see the criticism, adapt to it, and also take it into high consideration. So the first critique I have is the lack of infected. I would say that in the game they encounter more, and it feels like more of a nature and danger to the world. I would have also liked for them to explore the hive mind and see that fleshed out more within the season. I love the concept, just not much of it was shown throughout the entire season. Also, honestly, I would have loved the more accurate part of the source material where we see Henry and Sam leave Ellie and Joel, and then they save them at the end. Also, I would have liked the part in the game to be adapted into the TV show where Joel and Ellie get split up, and Sam would have to depend on Joel and Ellie would have to depend on Henry. I personally think that would have been an interesting dynamic to have within the show, but unfortunately we did not get that. Also, I will say that the finale did feel rushed. I think it should have been longer and included the scene where Ellie almost died from drowning and Joel is resuscitating her, and then the Fireflies incapacitate him. I think this shows more depth and sort of like how the Fireflies actually are, and it leads into the moral dilemma. To me, it was more important for Ellie not to remember any of the Fireflies, but here obviously they changed that. I think I would have loved this aspect to be a bit more accurate to the source material, because again, it does lead to a bigger moral dilemma. Now, there is one more aspect, and it's a little bit more on the controversial side, but again, this is just my opinion. Again, I just want to disclaimer that I do think in the show they don't give you like the full context to the situation, and they sort of glorified the Fireflies over Joel and made Joel seem like a crazy maniac. Now, before you go into the comments and say I hate you, let me just sort of give you why I think this is my personal opinion, why I didn't really like that. Now, in the game there's a lot more context when Joel and Ellie get incapacitated through the voice recordings, but obviously you can't have that in the show. But to make a long story short, they actually were going to kill Joel, but then decided to spare him because Marlene knew he was the only person that would understand her decision. Also, in the game they kind of explained that the doctors wanted to run more tests on Ellie instead of immediately killing her, and again, that's not really expressed throughout this entire sequence. And also, they did change some parts of the game where they said that they were going to make a vaccine in the game, but in the show they said a cure, which is completely different. A vaccine is preventative, a cure is something that you can go up to a person and cure them via medicine or whatever it is. So I only have one last gripe, which is that at the end, the way the doctors explain how Ellie is immune is that she has some sort of like chemical reaction. I don't know how kind of correct that is, because as we can see, the infected do attack Ellie, the clickers, the runners, stalkers, etc., and they don't even hesitate. And from the show we know that they don't attack their own, because when Tess gets bitten, all the infected just run past her. So in all honesty, the Fireflies don't really know what they're doing, and their theories in the show, I mean, while it may be more applicable, it still doesn't make sense. It actually doesn't make more sense than the game does. And then obviously there's this huge moral dilemma with the Fireflies and who they actually are. But honestly, I do think think they were missing a huge piece of that pie, or at least a piece to consider it in order for us as the audience to make our final decision, which they did not include within the show. So with the end of this season, I think this makes people concerned for season 2. Now, spoilers for part 2, but we all know Joel dies in the beginning of this game, and this essentially divided the fan base. However, the showrunner came out and said that they're going to separate the events of part 2 into 2 seasons, and I think this is a good move. This can sort of give Joel a bigger depth and provide the story into 2 different perspectives per season to tell a cohesive story. Now, I want to get this straight. I don't hate part 2. I just think it was told in the wrong order, and this would correct that mistake and not divide the fan base as much. I also think that part 2 needs to have time to be written very well because of the intensity of the story. And I also think it's important to talk about the side characters. I think they need to be casted well and written a bit better than the game. Also, Neil Druckmann has stated that there might be changes to the story. So I think Joel may not die sooner than we think, which I'm totally down with, and I think this would be a great move. I will say, if Naughty Dog does play their cards right with the TDA adaptation, it could be better than the game, and it could translate over in a very different and a beautiful way. But again, that's if they can do it in a proper manner. And I also just want to say, like, I don't mind if Joel dies within this season. I just want his death to kind of be a little bit like later in the story and kind of actually mean something. Overall, I'm not going to lie, I think that everything that I'm hearing is positive and can only be positive because of the learning lesson that Naughty Dog has learned. And I think that overall, like, I do think this can end up in a very positive direction. This adaptation really did surprise me and made me excited for the new season to come, but I do want to hear what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This is your boy Beast, and I'll see you guys in the next video.